Welcome back to Making Sense of Sounds and Scribbles. This is Miss Keller, the reading teacher, and I am bringing you lesson 4 on short E and long E, and that is based on this book, Making Sense of Sounds and Scribbles, to have all the sound cards in there where you can write. So every time I talk about the sound book, this is what I'm talking about. Okay, so let's get right down to it. We are going to be going over the sound cards for short E and long E, and this video is meant to help you move through the sound cards and what to focus on and teach your high school and middle school students who are struggling readers and who have gaps in their reading and even misinformation, and they've learned things maybe the wrong way. So this is something that can help them. Anyway, let's get started, shall we? And next thing, before I forget, I will be putting a link to a slideshow in the description so that you can access a clean slideshow with no sound and use it slide by slide with your class and go at your own pace. Okay, here we go. This is the sound card for short E. I used a picture and the word envelope. The sound of short E is eh. You can see that I have a list of CVC words, which stands for consonant, vowel, consonant. And remember that CVC words are usually short vowel sounds. It's easy to start with CVC words when we're dealing with vowels because kids can often rhyme some words and just nail that sound for the vowel. In this case, short E is eh. So bet, let, beg, leg, and so forth. Other words that have short E sound, here are some suggestions. These are what I use with my class. And please feel free to, when you're done going over the list and the sound, add words, have your kids give you some words that they think are the short sound of E, and then write them as a class into your sound book. Alrighty, next slide is a long E. You can see all the sound cards right there. There's quite a few ways to spell long E. What you want to remember to tell your kids or remind them is that when two vowels are together and they make one sound, so that's two vowels, one sound, that's going to be called a vowel team. And we never split up when we have two vowels making one sound. Okay, all of these are our variety of sound cards. There's quite a few, and let's get started with this one, long E. This first sound card, I'm not focused on vowel teams or words that have silent E. We just want to focus on words that have an E that looks like it's by itself, that has the long E sound. There's a reason why all these words have a long E sound. Let's look at the words first. Be, me, he, she, we. What they have in common is the E is at the end. These are single syllable. I lost my light again. Hold on just a moment. I'm back and I have light. I hate those automatic lights. They just turn off and there's no way to stop them from doing that. All right, where was I? So these words end with an E. They're single syllable words. The E is on the end. That makes them an open syllable. So that's why they're long. All right, the other rules are when you have, let's look at evil, equal, veto, and recess. So when you split up a word into its syllables, when a syllable ends on a vowel, that's an open syllable. And open syllables are usually long. Okay, so evil, E is by itself, vil, evil, that's a long vowel sound. Same with equal. Veto is a really good example to use. We have two vowels, that means we have two syllables, and when we separate it between the E and the T, the VE, that's one syllable. The E is an open syllable because the E is by itself. There's no consonant right next to it in the syllable, making it a short vowel sound. And then recess follows the same rule. At this point, collect any other words your kids might know that have an E that can go in the sound book. One of the words that kids often pop up, as an example, they'll say Egypt. And I'm like, yeah, that's great. So we write down the word Egypt. and just go like that. At this point, I would like to remind you that these words that you generate with these rules and these sounds are really good to give, make up like little spelling tests. You can do real short ones because I know that in middle school and high school, we have a lot of words that kids are expected to know and spell. They get tested on vocabulary, but these could be some really easy and short spelling lists that you could do to help the kids, remember the spelling rules, because that's really what we want them to do, is just really get familiar with the sounds and how to spell the sounds, and just do word puzzles. Just be creative. I'm not going to tell you how to teach your class. These are the sounds and the spellings that they do need to know to make them to help them become better readers. And anyway, so that being said, I'm just going to move on to the next slide. Okay, here we go. Talking too much as usual. All right, the long E sound. These are going to be the words with the silent E. The sound card uses the word Jean, and we have Eve, meme, scene, and concrete. Remember to remind them that the silent E is there to let our eyes know that we're going to be reading that vowel as a long vowel sound. And remind them again that in English, we don't pronounce the E at the end of a word. And that's really important to teach the students so that they know there is a reason, there is a point. It's not just some stupid thing that we have in English. It's not what makes it harder. Actually, it is what makes it easier. That silent E is a visual clue or indication, maybe not clue. It's a visual indication that we need to be reading a word with certain sounds. I live in an area where we have a lot of Spanish speakers, and in Spanish, you pronounce the E at the end of a word. So it's really important to explicitly teach this rule about English words to your Spanish speakers or to students that are EL, English language learners, because other languages are going to have different vowel sounds and different rules about their consonants. And we all know as English speakers, when we go to read a French word that we're unfamiliar with, the vowel sounds look all crazy to us, right? So the same thing with students who are learning English. The way it looks and the way it sounds is going to be very different for them. So we need to teach these things explicitly. And this is one rule that they do need to know, that the E is not pronounced at the end of words in English. Next sound card, thief. This is a long E using the IE spelling. We have a nice list here: grief, relief, peace, and you can see the rest of the words there. IE is a vowel team. Now, usually when two vowels are together, the first vowel says its name. So that makes it like the long vowel and the second one is silent. That's usually the rule. This happens to be the exception to that rule above. So just kind of that, if kids want to know, well, why does it say this sound or why does it say that sound? Usually the first vowel in a vowel team says its name, which is the long vowel sound. But then we have exceptions like this. So use the sound book and ask your kids to come up with some other words, or do they know any other words that have an IE that represents the long E sound, or write them in the sound book. The next sound card is number 26. This is with the cute little B on there with the EE. So this is our B. Tree, need, meet, feet, feed. These are all words that they should be familiar with by the time they get to high school. These all have a double E. Double E is a vowel team. It follows the rule where the first vowel says its name. I mean, even the second vowel says its name because there's two E's. But anyway, we would consider that following the rule. Come up with any other words that you can with your class that have an EE representing the long E sound. Next sound card, police. We have long E with the EA. So we have words like beam, seam, team, mean, lean, pee, clean. They giggle at pee, by the way. Clean, steam, and stream. EA is a vowel team. Two vowels together. The first one is long and the second is usually silent. This follows the rule, right? We have EA, E is first, so we have a long E sound. And can come up with some other words in the sound book with EA. And when you engage your class in volunteering words and you can write them in the sound book together, it really creates this interactive experience, and it is a way for you to, as you're doing this, to gauge whether the kids are getting the sound or not. And I oftentimes will ask a kid to read back. I'll just randomly like, hey, read back all the words that you wrote down for long E that are spelled with an EA, that kind of a thing. Just kind of keep it going, keep it light, tell them what the rules are, and keep it rolling like I'm going to do right now. Ba-bing. Now we have the next sound card with long E, which is E-I, ceiling, either, deceit, protein, deceive, receive. EI is a vowel team, and EI follows the vowel team rule. Now, here is a little bit of something that most of us know the first part too, but maybe not the second part. So I'm going to give it to you right here. You can teach this to your students. I before E, except after C, or when it sounds like long A, as in neighbor and way. So that's the whole rule about I before E, except after C. We often don't hear the last part because when we did the long A, we actually did see the, oh, E-I is saying long A. That's weird. There's not even an A in there. Well, this is the rule. At this point, you can ask your kids to write down any other words that they need or that they know in their sound book that have an E-I, and do all your checks. You manage your classroom how you see fit, because you are professionals and I respect that. Long E with an EY. So we usually see EY at the end of a word, like money, honey, turkey, chimney. EY is considered a vowel team, and it follows the vowel team rule. The E is first. It's making a long E sound. Here's the rule. When a Y or an EY ends a word with an unaccented syllable, oh, that's a whole other lesson. The Y represents the long E sound. I want to pause right here and just talk about this unaccented and accented syllable. I believe that's lesson 12, and I have finished that. I haven't recorded it. But when we speak, and this, oh my gosh, I have to back up one more time. When I was teaching how when words have a schwa sound, when it's not a clear, short, or long vowel sound, there's these odd vowel sounds, and a schwa is one of those sounds. So that has to do with accented and unaccented syllables. So that's a whole thing you got to teach. But I'm just starting to throw that language in here before we get to the lessons on accented and unaccented syllables. But just so that you know, when we accent a syllable, that does affect how we say a word. So, for example, let's just look at the word chimney. We have chim and then knee. We're going to split that between the M and the N. Well, which one is accented and which one isn't? If we accent the first syllable, chimney, do we say it like chimney, or do we say it chimney? So I would be accenting the second syllable. Well, the first syllable is accented, right? So chim, that's where we put the emphasis, right? And then knee. So go back to our rule here. It's going to have a long E sound on the unaccented syllable at the end, right? So knee is not accented. It's the softer accent. However you want to put it, it's the least emphasized syllable. That's why it has the long E sound. That's what I mean by accented and unaccented. But Again, we're going to get that in lesson 12. It's a little complicated. It's kind of hard to teach to the high school students, but once they get it, they can start hearing it and realize, oh yeah, I do. There is kind of an emphasis on certain syllables than other syllables. Anyway, that's the rule. That's for you to know. You can dole that out as you see fit, but it does matter when we start teaching sounds, okay? So that's it. Let's roll to the next slide. Thank you very much. Ladies and gentlemen, here we have the Y. Y can stand for a long E sound. We got some words here: lady, shady, misery, spicy, zesty, hurry, and blurry. Here's our rule. When the Y or the EY ends a word with an unaccented syllable, again, we have that right, the Y represents the long E sound. And you can see I broke these two words up, funny and bunny. And so it's funny, because we don't say funny, and bunny, because we don't say bunny. The unaccented syllable with the Y is carrying that long E sound. And of course, make all the words that you want in your sound book with the Y at the end. That represents the long E sound. Have fun with that. Next, here's some rules about the Y at the end. I threw this one in here because a lot of times kids spell these words wrong. So I'm introducing the plural rule with the Y. So let's look at this on the sound card. When a Y is preceded by a vowel, you just add an S. So if you want to pluralize a word, toy, there's a O, which is a vowel right in front of the Y. So I just put an S on the end. Boys, same thing. Monkeys, I have an EY at the end. So I've got a vowel right in front of the Y. So I'm just adding the S. Plural rule. When the Y is the last letter preceded by a consonant, you're going to change the Y to I before you add the S or another suffix. So there's like a little bit of a twist in there. How do we spell stuff? So we have the word fry. It's preceded, the Y at the end, there's a consonant in front of it. Therefore, you're going to drop that Y and make it an I, and then add your plural on there. So you have fries, we have ladies. Now, with beauty and bounty, in order to make beautiful and bountiful, because the Y is preceded by a consonant, that's how we know we drop the Y, turn it into an I, and then we add our suffix, in this case, full, F-U-L. So that's a little extra on the sound card there. Let's roll it to the last one, which is E spelled with E-O. I got the word people. People. If you can come up with another word with a long E with E-O, knock yourself out. Please write it in the sound book. But this is usually the only word that I put on the sound card. It's just something they have to know. And kids write the word people all the time. And you will often see the E-O flipped around and it misspelled like P-O-E and then P-E-L. It's spelled all kind of crazy ways, but people is one of those words you just gotta know it. So E-O is a vowel team. It follows the rule that the first letter is the long vowel sound and the second one is silent. So there you go. And that takes us to the end of this slideshow. What's coming up next are the letters F, G, and H, and all of the different letter combinations that represent those sounds. So that's the end of that. And I am Miss Keller, the reading teacher. This is the book that all of these Making Sense of Sounds and Scribbles, that all of these sound cards are in. And I hope that you have a really great day. And any questions, please write questions in the comments to me there. Contact me on social media if you have any other questions, and I'd be happy to help you out as best I can. And again, I will put a link to all of my socials. I will put a link to the slideshow. That's just the straight slideshow. and I'll put that in the information below so that you can access that and use it with your classroom. And if you are interested in getting the sound book, you can get that on Amazon. So there you go. That's it for now, and I will see you next time.